Almighty Suspect versus Brandon. Now, when it comes to that situation, I'm not really catching people keep it a Benji. The way it was so much of a disrespect in the mix of that conversation on both sides, which Almighty Suspect definitely had way more disrespect that he was delivering than what Brandon was delivering. But based upon all the anger and wolf tickets being sold and all that, we have to keep it real. If we say one person was scared to fight or didn't want to fight, we have to say both parties did not. If we say one person showed that they had self-control and they have maturity and all that stuff, then we have to say that for both parties. Because when a person is disrespecting you and you choose not to engage, you are no different than the next person who you are disrespecting and they are not engaging. Almighty Suspect is already how he is. He have been up at No Jumper for some years. We already know how he gonna get down. Brandon seems like he was strategically trying to create all of these situations. Just things he was saying, things that he was like bringing up. Like, even when he said things like, oh, like the whole world don't really care about this whole Big U stuff, and the whole world, like the globe don't know Nipsey Hussle, all that type of stuff. Like, to me, that was just creating controversy and trying to get a viral moment. Which, when you went to respond to that heated moment between you and Almighty Suspect up there at the Viral Way podcast, that's what one of the gentlemen said. They said that this is your viral moment so far. So it seems like you might have been looking for a viral moment, because for you not to know Almighty Suspect, but you took it upon yourself to try to like worry about someone saying the N word with a hard ER, to me, that's like a waste of your time. You was invited. You said that Flacco put you in position. You wanted to speak on topics. Instead of you speaking on topics, you chose to turn everything into a personal matter. You wanted to approach Almighty Suspect about something he's personally into. If he's throwing the N-word around with the ER on it, or he not, whatever. That's his personal get down. As long as he's not directly getting at you, you got the right to just mind your business. But if you wanted to take it upon yourself to insert yourself in his lifestyle and be in his get down, then you have to be eligible to take whatever it come with it. Because Almighty Suspect wasn't trying to insert himself in whatever you got going on. You wanted to insert yourself in whatever Almighty Suspect got going on, whether you actually heard him say something wrong, right, or not. But you also got on the Viral Way podcast and said things that was like very much farther from the truth based upon what we saw. Like when you say he was just slurring and all these things like that, none of us caught that. So you put that on your own character for putting that out there on that podcast, and we all can see the truth in that matter. None of us saw Almighty Suspect acting like his energy was low, or he was slurring, or he just was totally out of it. He was pretty much acting the same way he always act. And at one point, I also feel like Brandon was up there with an agenda to try to talk Almighty Suspect out of his position, right? Brandon went on Viral Way podcast, and when he was responding to the situation between him and Suspect, he made some remarks about it's crazy how the only type of like black representation we have at No Jumper is like, he said like some bad things pertaining to Almighty Suspect and Brick. Then he said like, well, not as much as Brick, but he was like, the only person that's black that act like they got sense and want to do some podding is Flacco. Now, Flacco is a smart guy and he's very strategic. However, that do not take a fact out of that does not remove the fact that Flacco have not been a black community's favorite, right? A lot of people from the black community do not agree with his outlook on certain topics. When he, disrespects mothers and black mothers and for the choices they made, or disrespect black mothers because the choices the kids made, like, sometimes it ain't what you saying, but how you saying it. And when he say things how he say it, it shows like that's a poor representation of a black person as well. Sometimes when Flacco deliver things and he shows that he has no level of understanding on the in and outs of some of these situations in the black home, that he just like have an answer figured out already, and he's not really seeking the understanding part of it, then that's poor representation. See, I see that like with the FOI. If you really pay attention, you never see them on a campaign of trying to bash another black person. They try to align themselves with a black person and they try to educate, right? That's why I don't disrespect people, because I'm open for a conversation so we can try to get to understand each other more or understand our points more. I felt like Brandon went up there and he kind of put a black man who is in a good position based upon this podcast get down. He kind of like was trying to talk him out of his position. For what reason? I don't know. But even on the physical side, Brandon could not really get no points off of Almighty Suspect. Yeah, he do what he do when he talk and he yell and he do all that stuff Almighty Suspect do, but Brandon, you a big old guy. You look like you might have like 200 pounds or something over Almighty Suspect. Almighty Suspect getting a W off the rip, if he even get out there and try to squabble you down. He gonna carry more wins by getting out there with you than you can get for trying to fight Almighty Suspect. Almighty Suspect showed signs of trying to fight more than what Brandon showed. Brandon stayed in his seat and he kept trying to explain how he wanted to do a controlled fight. Almighty Suspect kept saying that he don't want no controlled fight. Let's walk out in the alley. Let's walk around the corner, cross the street. We've been squabbling. Let's do it. But the fact that Almighty Suspect jumped out of his chair and he asked for a fade, he was closer to trying to fight than what Brandon was. Brandon brought up he's a trained fighter. A lot of time people who train and all that stuff, whether it was lifting weights or fighting and all that stuff, when they bring that up, that's usually like a wolf ticket, a scare tactic. Why are you worrying about scare tactics? Why are you worrying about trying to control the fight when you guys are being disrespectful? Walk around that outside and get it in. You get on Viral Way and you say after the show ended, the energy changed. But we can't vouch for that. We don't have an opinion on that because we couldn't see that. But on camera, we saw Almighty Suspect call Brandon 1,000 B words and tell him he was a B word 100 times. And we also seen Zay say things like, you know, we not going to do all that disrespect word playing because then I'm going to be on that and we going to blitz something. I'm going to blitz something. Brandon tolerated a lot of disrespect and, so to speak, like fair warning or threat, however you might want to view it. He was able to accept all that. He was not mad about none of that, right? It was also a time to where Brandon was explaining to Josh that he was trying to get a fight set up and he's not going to ruin his position when somebody invite him somewhere. He's not going to make a fool of himself and, you know, ruin that opportunity or whatever. And he was like, Josh, look at me, Josh. Look at me. Like, you wanted Josh to give you full attention. To me, that was almost being viewed as like a cry for help. Because everybody know that like Adam and Josh and them don't really care about what some other grown man is going to do physical. Because they understand that. They just will prefer for it not to just take place on camera at all. Or definitely not, you know, a consistent thing. And, you know, they don't want nobody to be in a position to where they can try to hold no jumper accountable. See, Almighty Suspect showed signs of growth and maturity. Because I seen Brandon say that he's been acting this way for years and he haven't showed no growth. But him being able to say, let's go outside and fight, that's a sign of growth. Because he's comprehending better now than what he was yesterday. He understands what he has at stake, what he has to lose. This is what we preach all the time about how the black community need to be more on that type of time, right? Instead of just not appreciating our opportunities and acting like we don't give a care. We need to act like we do care, right? Almighty Suspect is showing that he care. I get it. I mean, Brandon's get down, I don't know him and ain't never saw him on nothing. So the way he was speaking and the way he was kind of like antagonizing, it would seem like he was almost trying to get some type of payday out of the situation. Something. It seemed like he had more of an objective as opposed to just trying to come up there and podcast, build some relationships, cover the topics. And Brandon also said this on a Viral Way. He said that I call Suspect a ghetto B word. And he said, I'll take credit for that. I'll take credit for that. I'm the one who started the B word stuff first. That was like strange to me because like using the word credit because you like refer to a person as like they are acting like a ghetto project B word. Like saying the word credit, like that's crazy to me. Cause I look at it like, are you actually in here with an agenda and you have other people that you are trying to please and you are trying to make it seem like you actually did something by just referring to him as a B word? Because you also said that he was being selective because Kelby called him a B word, he get off. You refer to him as a B word, he don't get off. But not one time, and if so, I missed it. So I don't want to, you know what I'm saying? But I did not catch near time to where you were like deliberately calling suspect a real B word. You never said use a B, use a woo woo woo. You just kept trying to refer to him in the form of like a B word. Just like Adam did with DW Flame. Said, hey, you acting like he said you having bad B word energy. That's what Adam said with him. Referred to him as like a form of a B word or whatever and all this stuff, but it wasn't just like a real directed thing. But DW Flame did not get off on Adam. So since all y'all are from Long Beach, you know, DW Flame is from Long Beach. Brandon, do you feel like DW Flame got marked out by Adam? Because if you feel like you marked out suspect because you referred to him of his behavior reflecting a B word behavior, then you have to have that same energy for TW Flame. And in my opinion, the situation does not require neither one of them to try to jump out their skin and crash something out. Only because the type of person Adam is and the type of person Brandon is presenting himself as. Now, if Brandon was pushing like a threat with it, or Adam was being a threat with it, then I could get it. But in my opinion, myself, I don't look at it like DW Flame is afraid of Adam and he marked DW Flame out. I don't think Brandon marked out Almighty Suspect, and I don't think Almighty Suspect is afraid of Brandon. Almighty Suspect could get up there with Brandon, give him a black eye or two, he'd be straight. Even if he come up short. Almighty Suspect gonna just get more of a reputation and show like, okay, he's not picking and choosing and he's willing to get cracking. That's what it's gonna show for him. See, sometimes y'all think like when you have a bigger person in a conversation and a smaller person in a situation, that the smaller person is off the rip is gonna be worried. But sometimes the big person be worried too because the W is already in their favor. So they know like they can't really come up short and they really can't even lose because people is gonna look at them very strange. Trained fighters got something about themselves that's different than a street fighter. And that's the whole controlled fight situation. Why do you think Brandon kept trying to bring up a controlled fight situation? Because when you have a controlled fight, you have immediately assistance to emergency of something. If it gets terrible in that fight, you have immediately emergency assistance. You got people who can intervene. You got people you could tap out. You have all these things in your favor as opposed to not in your favor when you step out in that black alley and you put them up and have a fight. We're talking about a real fight, a real street fight, a real fight. Not nothing controlled. And a lot of people don't want to engage in that. You know what I'm saying? Because them street fights we have like changing people forever. You know, not saying that them controlled fights don't do, but you never know what can happen in that street fight. And I'm not saying that Brandon was just like totally gonna let Suspect do his thing to him if he just started trying to put his hands on him. Nah, I don't think he's just a total mark like that. But I just feel like he came up there to have an argument more than doing podcasting. Because you should have never could like even address none of that ER stuff, none of these things. You should have never said nothing about Suspect, skin tone, being mixed, and none of these things. Because that's not your place. And he's not the topic. The topics is whatever Josh and them pull up on the screen. But you chose to be personally invested in what's going on up there. I want to speak on how the dude on Viral Way was saying that it seems like Almighty Suspect started like creating energy like he would, like Brandon said, I'm a trained fighter. Almighty Suspect went to saying something like, you think I'm going to let you put your hands on me? And now they acting like Almighty Suspect want to bring a weapon involved. In my opinion, what's wrong with that? Almighty Suspect do not know Brandon from a can of paint. Brandon is engaging with Almighty Suspect, being very disrespectful and insulting. So if you walk in this room, you walked in this room because you accept what come with it, not because you walked in this room and you want to try to control things to your likeness. See, it's like you don't tell people how to respond or how to react. You control yourself. So if you have enough courage to offend any human, this is not we bypassed the Brandon and Suspect. But if you got enough courage or stupidity in you to offend or insult or disrespect another human being, you need to be willing to take full-on accountability on what comes with that, the choices you made. Because I do not respect no tough person who's only tough because they feel like it's a cap on where it's gonna go. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I'm gonna be tough because I know it's only gonna go this far. It's not gonna be just, you know what, a black eye. That don't make you tough. Because you can take that black eye. So you're not gonna think and you're not gonna deliver things with an intelligent way. You are gonna deliver things in the most, just however way you want to do it, because you don't mind taking that black eye. No, everybody got their own opportunity to do what they choose to do when you interact with people. You either gonna pick up some or not, you gonna fight or not, you gonna walk away or not, you're gonna engage or not, however you choose to do. But when you get into a person's space and be a part of what they got going on, you gotta know whatever they got going on can now be something that you have to deal with. So watch who lives you want to make yourself in. To me, Brandon jumped in Suspect life, and it could have went bad, but he chose to be in his life, worrying about him and what he's saying, and who he's mixed with, and his dad and his mom, and all these things. You want to be threatening a person. You want to refer to a person as a B word. That's fine. Why are you afraid for a person to pick up a weapon? You should be disrespecting this person because you're willing to take it to any extent that you can take it. That's what disrespect is. And I'm not trying to promote no high level of violence, but I just had to speak on that so people can learn that. Like the younger people can learn that. Like when you wake up, watch what you do. We got the situation going on now with the white kid and the black kid, and shout out to everybody in that situation. I don't want to offend anyone or disrespect anybody. But as we can see from a small part of it, is we have a person choosing to put their hands on somebody and try to tell someone what they should do. And physically tell them what they should do. And then response leads to something that's definitely unfortunate. I'm just saying, yeah, on one hand, we can say you should not be afraid to fight, or you should be willing to play fair. But is it really fair when you are attacking me, or we're not even engaging in mutual combat? That's not fair. Anything outside of us saying let's put our hands up, or us even having a relationship for you to even be able to disagree with me to a certain level, is nothing fair about that. People can definitely do what they want to do and go about things how they go about it. I just try to give out some insight on what choice you should make to give you another chance tomorrow. Because you can act like don't nobody got the right to respond how they want to or react how they want to, but when your life and your household and your family is messed over forever because you wanted to engage with something, you gotta take accountability. Whoever start the situation gotta take accountability, no matter how it go. Even going back to this situation, that kid chose to go over there and antagonize some people and be under their tent and be from an enemy school and all these things with the sports stuff. Then he know, even if he don't want to be sitting in that cell for a week, a day, or whatever he's going through, he has to know, like, man, you brought this upon yourself because you chose to go over there. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, a person ain't got the rights to put their hands on you, but you still, for yourself, whatever you go through for the future in life, you gonna always know that you had a choice. You had a choice to either go sit somewhere and mind your business, or you had a choice to go get up under these people's tent, and whatever comes with it, comes with it. That was the choice you made. And if you are the person who took the first the start of it all, whether it's physical, words, whatever, take accountability on what comes with it.